One Dutton is in every Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone series, but his story is still incomplete. Only one member of the Dutton family appears in every series of Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western Yellowstone franchise, which makes it all the more fascinating that his story is incomplete. There are 3 Yellowstone series about the Dutton family heading into 2025. The Yellowstone franchise will add a modern-day spin-off of the flagship, the Madison, but it will focus on another family led by Michelle Pfeiffer. It will be a change of pace for the universe, which has focused on the Dutton family so far and has plenty of unfinished stories to tell within the Dutton family tree. The opportunity to fill in the family tree's missing gaps on the flagship series has passed, following the Yellowstone Season 5 finale that closed Sheridan's main series as we know it. Still, with more Yellowstone stories on the horizon, Sheridan will likely solve the biggest mystery of the family yet. We likely won't have to wait until 1944 comes out if the World War II-era saga is still in the cards. Sheridan previously announced the spin-off, but there are no promising updates. Instead, 1923 Season 2, the final installment of the Depression-era saga, could fill in the blanks. Kevin Costner's character's great-great-grandfather, John Dutton, appears in every Yellowstone series. Sheridan first incorporated the character into his 1883 story, a Yellowstone prequel about the Dutton family's journey on the Oregon Trail that led to their settling in Montana. While John Dutton was just a 5-year-old boy in the 1883 spin-off cast, he is a key player in the story. Audie Rick's John makes it to Montana at the end of 1883 and survives. Therefore, James Badgedale would appear as John 40 years later in 1923 as a grown man, married to Emma Dutton with a child named Jack. John Dutton even creatively factors into Yellowstone Season 4, which flashed back to Beth and Case's earliest recorded ancestors after they settled in Montana. John Dutton is a teenager in the scenes, appearing alongside his father, James, his mother, Margaret, and his brother, Spencer. John develops considerably before his adolescent years, with Jack Michael Doak embodying John as a well-mannered teenager in 1893. Despite the character's extensive presence in the franchise, it's easy to forget John's overarching narrative because he's never in a starring role, and intentionally vague details make it tricky to connect his story. Perhaps the most notable reason that the second-generation Dutton is an easily overlooked character is that we have no idea how John Dutton connects to Costner's John Dutton IA, despite being his namesake. While it's true for many characters that their direct connection to the modern Yellowstone Season 5 characters is vague, John Dutton forms part of the missing link that will explain everything. The ties at the beginning and end of the Dutton family tree are clear but muddled somewhere in the middle, right around where John Dutton I and his son factor into the Yellowstone timeline. John Dutton II is the father of Costner's character. Despite knowing how the family started, Yellowstone hasn't revealed John Dutton II's father, which is the key to understanding exactly how John Dutton II relates to his ancestors. Whoever births John Dutton II can claim to be the direct ancestor of the family's surviving bloodline, which led to Beth and Case. It makes sense that John Dutton II is the son of Jack or Spencer, making him the original John Dutton's grandson or nephew, and the right age to appear as an old man in the Yellowstone flashback where he died. Jack and Spencer Dutton star in the 1923 cast, each a significant facet of the family tree in their own right. Spencer, a World War I veteran and professional hunter, is James and Margaret's child, making him part of the second generation of the Dutton family to inhabit Montana. Jack is the son of John Dutton I, making Jack a third-generation Dutton. We know that one of the men will continue the family with their children since it continues with John Dutton II in roughly the 1920s. And there's no other surviving Dutton that John II's father could be. 1923 will likely fill the gaps. The first season of the series, led by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, premiered in 2022, setting up exciting conclusions for both Spencer and Jack Dutton, who started their lives with their wife and fiancé, respectively, in the next outing. There isn't long to wait for 1923 Season 2, as we head into the near year since it will be available to stream in February. The second 1923 chapter is slated to be the missing link in the Dutton family tree, filling in the timeline between 1923 and Yellowstone, completing John Dutton High's story. Taylor Sheridan, the mastermind behind Yellowstone and its connected series, has created a universe that not only captivates viewers with rugged landscapes, intense family drama, and complex characters, but also weaves a compelling narrative of the Dutton family. As the patriarch of the Dutton clan, John Dutton continues to lead the charge in the fight for land, legacy, and family. Another presence subtly lingers across Sheridan's entire television empire. A single Dutton whose story remains intricately unfinished. In every one of Sheridan's creations, from Yellowstone to its prequels, the Dutton name looms large. But one character, whose tale intertwines with all of them, hasn't yet had his full story revealed. His identity is enigmatic, his presence is felt but never fully explored. This Dutton is a shadow in the background, a figure from the past whose legacy impacts every corner of the Sheridan universe. But in every series he appears, his narrative remains incomplete, waiting to be brought into the light in a way that only Sheridan's masterful storytelling can. The first seeds, Yellowstone. The Dutton family's dynasty is at the heart of Yellowstone. The show introduces the gruff, no-nonsense patriarch John Dutton, played by Kevin Costner. However, while John is front and center, there's mention after mention of a mysterious Dutton who came before him. This is the Dutton whose actions planted the seeds for the powerful ranch that now stands under John's command. His name is often whispered in reverence and fear, but details about his life remain scarce. John, as the head of the family, faces constant struggles from enemies, both within and outside the ranch. However, the audience is always left with hints of a deeper legacy, a hidden history that his ancestors, specifically one Dutton, paved. A figure whose power and resolve set the stage for everything John now contends with, but whose story has yet to be fully explored on screen. This enigmatic Dutton remains an untold chapter in the Yellowstone saga, though his influence is undeniable. Every time John reflects on the land, every mention of how the ranch came to be, the audience gets the sense that there is a much larger story of violence, betrayal, and triumph that has yet to be brought to light. The audience is led to believe that this Dutton was a force to be reckoned with, but their ultimate fate is yet to be revealed. 1883. The Echoes of the Past. In 1883, the first prequel to Yellowstone, the story of the Dutton family takes a step back in time to the Oregon Trail, where James Dutton, played by Tim McGraw, is introduced as the patriarch. But even in this series, there is a recurring reference to an earlier Dutton whose impact stretches even further back than James. Though James is the direct ancestor of John Dutton, his own journey is informed by a figure whose influence predates him. Another Dutton who shaped the path of the family long before. In 1883, as James faces hardships on the treacherous trail, the legacy of the Duttons is felt through their struggles and triumphs. The resilience of the family is directly linked to the actions of the previous Dutton, whose story remains a tantalizing mystery. Despite James being at the forefront of 1883, there are many moments where hints about the earlier Dutton come into play. They are shadows in the narrative, characters whose names are mentioned, but whose stories remain largely untold. Through James' interactions with his family, his attempts to carve out a future for his descendants, and the challenges he faces, it becomes clear that the Dutton legacy is not just a modern creation. It has been forged over centuries. But the exact details of that forging remain elusive. 1923. The legacy continues. In 1923, the second prequel to Yellowstone, the Dutton family finds itself grappling with the challenges of the early 20th century. This time, we focus on Jacob Dutton, played by Harrison Ford, and his wife Kara, portrayed by Helen Mirren. This series delves deeper into the trials and tribulations that shaped the modern-day Duttons, with the ranch expanding its reach and influence. However, just like in the earlier series, the presence of the untold Dutton continues to linger. Jacob Dutton's journey is fraught with complex political and personal struggles, and once again we see that the Dutton name carries with it more than just pride. It is a mantle that has been passed down through generations, with each one carrying the weight of an incomplete story. Jacob, much like his ancestors, is driven by the legacy of a Dutton who came before him. But the deeper history of the family is always just out of reach. There is a continued sense in 1923 that the figure of the previous Dutton holds the key to many of the family's trials, though his name is rarely spoken and his deeds are veiled in mystery. His presence haunts every generation of Duttons, like an unspoken challenge that every family member must face.